Today we have such a pleasure and such a great speaker. Cheryl Bradley comes to us. Cheryl is the Associate Director for CMA's Center for Economic Service. She has extensive experience, more than 20 years, working on the Medicare program. And has worked as an education and training specialist, a medical review analyst, and a customer service representative across all the California Medicare contractors, including Noridian Healthcare. Most recently, Cheryl has provided problem-solving assistance and has presented to physicians, specialty organizations, billing staff, and other healthcare professions in California, Hawaii, and Nevada. Please help me give a warm welcome to Cheryl Bradley.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Cheryl.
I have to fix myself for being recorded, okay? So if you see me acting crazy, it's because I'm being recorded, okay? Usually I'm used to definitely live and living color crowd, like all of you smiling at me. You know, I've eaten right before you eat so that we can pretty much stay on schedule. But I'm here to kind of do some of the Los Angeles MGMA Medicare update for the year, all right? So how's everyone?
Good.
All right. You're chewing, you're unable to talk, you know, just clang on the glass or do something. Let me know you're okay. Any of you, it's your first time coming? Okay, so welcome. All right. So thanks. Pam dragged you with her so that, okay. That works out well. We like that. Other ones on this side, did somebody drag you? Did she drag you with her? Oh, well, good. That works out. We like that. We like to know if there's something else that we'd like to know. You know, the best restaurant in town and somebody tells us about it, right? Ladies, the best shoe store. Aren't there other things that we like people to tell us that they really like and kind of pass it on to a friend? All right, so I'm glad somebody drug you to the Medicare Changes webcast. All right, so let's kind of go. I don't have a clicker, so let's see if you, I've got my chair here. I have no idea why, but just in case, let's go over there. And get it acclimated to my space. I'm gonna click and do everything because you're eating. All right, so we kind of want to go over the final rule for 2018. Everybody knows that Medicare always has a final rule. Usually it comes out in November, so usually Congress is voting on everything right before they go to Thanksgiving vacation. You've heard in the news quite often where they went and they come back and they voted on some things, haven't you? We've been paying much more attention to politics than we used to or really want to, correct? I know I really look out for what the budget means because that's the first thing in terms of what is it going to mean for Medicare, whether you have people who use it personally or for me, it's the business. As she said, the only thing I do is Medicare. And it has kept me employed for many, many, many years, as you've heard, only 29, and you know, kind of no matter what happens, the sick will always be with us. Is that some of you who have been in healthcare for many years, no matter what, you will always be able to do something in terms of healthcare. So definitely, I keep my eyes and ears open to what's going on. I work for the California Medical Association, so definitely we have a federal lobbyist and we have everybody else who handles the politics and things like that, but definitely I coordinate, work with her, and Les quite often might end up on a task force where we all try to connect, make sure that we're getting the information to one another, and if it's something that needs to be printed for the members, that we make sure that we get it out on the web or either in whatever newsletters and things we send. So we'll kind of look at what are some of the highlights, what are some of the hot topics, what are the updates, what's going on with the quality payment program. You've heard of it called MIPS, MACRA, and everything else that we can't repeat out over the film, you know, some things. So we'll kind of look at what's new with it for 2018. Also, I've worked with Noridian both as an employee and now that I'm on the other side representing the physicians who are members of the Medical Association. I know a lot of them, so they are liaisons, you know, work with them. I know them by name, know them by email, and so I'm able to kind of work out some things for our members in terms of especially enrollment and things of that sort. So I work with them, and so I've gotten some things in terms of Noridian compliance that we want to be aware of since they are the Medicare contractor for us. And then lastly, resources. You don't have to know everything, you just need to know where to find it. So let's get going. Let's look at some highlights, some hot topics. Always some things you want to pay attention to. I think I kind of put in some things regarding plan year changes, how we just want to kind of be aware of. I know with you working in the doctor's office, you do a lot of different things at one time. Pam, you wear many hats, don't you? But I kind of put in some things so everybody will pay attention. No changes in Medicare, whatever other health plans. Talk to the beneficiaries. Claim your HIPSA bonuses if that's possible. I know we're just here in Long Beach and the surrounding areas, but for me, California Medical Association is based out of Sacramento and things of that sort. So a lot of my clients, physician members and things of that sort are also out of Northern California, a lot of areas, a lot of rural areas, Imperial County and things of that sort. So I tell them to be aware of those changes. I've got them kind of tied up and owing some money and things of that sort now. So I tell them, use the CPT codes that affect your billing. You've got to stay on top of that. I'm sure some of you may be professional coders. I trained you've got your certificate. There we go. We've got Anna. She said, don't tell anybody else. Okay, I got you. We got it on film, however, Anna. Reevaluate your practices, your financial policies and things of that sort. You know, like, what are you being paid for? What's not being paid for? How long is it taking us to be paid? You know, so we can kind of get that to the front office. And we like to save time. How many of you like to save time and you like to save money? You like to get your money from your prospective insurance companies, and you like to save time and a few Excedrin for the week. So, you know, what kind of things have not been paid, we'd like somebody to kind of tell us, and we'd like to fix the processes behind the scenes that we've been doing. Notice that as part of MIPS, your improvement activities are some things that you're supposed to kind of look at now, all right? So review your 2017 accounts receivable. Of course, you're not in the business not only to make money, but to provide the best patient care possible, but also you're not in the business of losing money. I'm a real employee, let's go for what real employees do. And of course, in business and the doctor's office cannot sustain itself if you're not receiving reimbursements from your health insurance programs. Let's just say that. The physicians who are members of the association, we market to them that there are benefits, and we have a physician advocate who travels all around, who goes in the doctor's offices. She sees what she can help them do. And one of her things is, if you are not being paid, you know, call me first before you write it off. Let's not leave money on the table. So that's, you know, those are some of the things that if it's possible to be paid. We're also finding out that but when you have questions, there's always somebody to ask to kind of help you get through some of the rough stages, all right? And then lastly, refresh your website. I know a lot of you do Facebook, Snapchat. You join Trump and tweet, you know things of that sort. No. Whether you want to or not. Okay, so you know, kind of website. How many of you have an office? Is your practice on the website? Anybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so there we go. That's what we're kind of looking at. You know that social media is well and live. Look, we're here in the room, but we're also kind of filming for some things for some people who may not be available right now, but they can see it a lot later. I know when I say social media, a lot of you kind of have that look of distress on your face, but you know what's out there. Do you use your map every now and then to see where you're going and how to get there a little bit faster and things of that sort? So yeah, the social media's out there, good, bad, ugly, aerial view of your neighbor's house, whether they pay their property taxes. You know you can't see all of that, don't you? Whether you want to or not. All right. I believe in interactive participation, so as soon as you finish eating, you know, relax a little bit, enjoy the ride. It is Medicare, but you can digest it, all right? So we kind of got our fee schedule. How much money are we going to be paid? We talked about it earlier in terms of realizing what's being denied, why it's not paying, how long does it pay. You already know the government only has a 14-day payment floor on billing electronically, so anything outside of that point, if the claim is clean, they would have to pay you interest. And of course, you know, Medicare, government, CMS is not interested in paying you money that they don't have to. So 9.5 out of 10 times they're trying to pay those claims as quickly as possible. Even when there was a stall with the budget. Remember when we had a government shutdown for a couple days? Everybody started calling me, are we gonna start missing our money? I said, you won't even see it. It's transparent because your claims come in, they hold them for 14 days. They will not be paying you interest. So how long was the shutdown officially? How long was it? 1 day, that's what I'm saying. Well, everybody started calling me, I'm like, that won't be happening. Watch it.
Second time, 2 hours.
Yeah, they were ready. They're like, we're turning this, so we're gonna finish this in a couple minutes because we will not be paying all of that money behind the scenes. The fee schedule kind of got a small increase in it. Under MACRA, remember the Medicare Access Chip Reauthorization Act, it was the law that was bipartisan, signed into law about 2015. You see a lot of changes in the Medicare structure and how they pay based on MACRA, the two tracks, MIPS and the APM. But under that law, notice that bullet says there's a 0.5% update. But I want you to remember that there are other laws that always precede the voting in of the fee schedule for the current year, and one of those things was misvalued codes. That means they've got a lot of codes out there, a lot of things that have been updated based on technology, and maybe they believe, I think the table had maybe about 10,000 codes, things that the healthcare system believes it's paying a little bit too much for. An example that I want to give you that's a little bit older but kind of gives you an idea. Vivian, do you know when patients used to be able to stay in the hospital for cataract surgery? She's like, I haven't heard about that. Who's heard about that? Rue? Anybody? Kim? Anybody? Anna? Anybody? Richard? Do you know that? You never heard that? Anybody? Somebody? No? You didn't know once upon a time the patients could stay in the hospital after cataract surgery? Long time ago, maybe. Okay, I'll let you have that. Maybe years ago, but honestly and truthfully, you could get about 3-day hospital stay for a cataract surgery. Can you imagine? Yeah, how long do you get now?
2 hours.
2 hours. Put your big glasses on and let's call your ride to pick you up. Kind of shows you how things have changed. And so, of course, since you don't get a hospital stay, they don't have to pay a lot as much for a cataract surgery. You can even look at heart surgeries. Remember when we used to have quadruple bypass and everything like that, and it was major, and everybody would come to the hospital and they stand in the waiting room and they'd say prayers and everything else they had to say over you because it was so major, right? What about that now? They don't have to do that anymore. So that's what I'm saying. It's kind of those kind of things. Yeah, they still pray. All right. They'll still pray, but everybody won't stand around in the waiting room like they used to be like, oh my God, is he going to make it or whatever. They're like, call us when it's over. Everybody will still be at work, they'll still be at school, because it's becoming a little bit more common than it should. Suzette and I were just talking about strokes occurring in a lot of people who are only 39 years old and things of that sort, where strokes and heart attacks and things used to be reserved for people who were a lot older. You know, the ticker's been around a little bit longer than it has been. But I said all of that to say, as I said, that over the time period, the technology has improved the way a lot of those services are rendered, and therefore what they used to pay, they will no longer have to pay. The amounts of money will go down. And as I said, CMS said, well, you know, we got a lot of codes that are overvalued. We need to look at it. We have a target of how to bring some of those allowances down on the fee schedule. They missed the target. That's the bottom line to it, is they did not bring enough of the codes in line in order to keep up with that 0.550 update. So they say, you know what? Because we missed our reduction due to the misvalued code target recapture, we didn't capture enough of those and bring down the amounts allowed. So we're gonna have to take a little bit of money off that 0.5. And so actually our update is only a 0.41%. Everybody see that? Now that's the part that you zero in on. You go, I thought we were getting a 0.50%. But they say here's some other legislation that was passed before it that says not necessarily. We've got some other monies we need to recapture before we give you all of that. So the bottom line is, here in the fee schedule, it is about 1,250 pages that actually come out in the Federal Register in terms of of how all of the laws, the rules, and regulations that govern this accordingly. But for those of you who are like myself, who have very little time, and that time that you may have, Pam's already suggested we would like to open the door and be out at the pool or something of that sort today because it's so nice out there. I got a 26-page recap for you. Sounds much better than 1,250 pages, doesn't it? So I got a 26-page summary for you that kind of helps you out at the bottom. Remember, I said you don't have to know everything, you just need to know where to find it. A couple other things that we look at for this year. How many of you remember those programs that they call PQRS? Here we go. EHR. Remember some of those? I see you getting a little bit nauseated again. You know, the value-based modifier, that's probably one that isn't as popular to you as some of the others, but the value-based modifier is tied to your success with PQRS because it has to do with the cost. The PQRS was your quality reporting, and tied to your quality reporting, remember the thing is pay for performance, so tied to that was the value-based modifier, they call it the VBM. And tied to that was cost as well. So all three of those could reduce the amount that you actually receive after your Medicare charges are approved. There are some penalties that are built in. This year, 2018, is the last year of the penalties, but I'm getting a lot of calls from doctors that, ooh, what's that? Or secondly, I thought I made it and I didn't, and they're receiving letters from CMS saying, looks like you didn't quite make it. And so we're going to be taking back some of a certain percentage. So remember, you've already got a 2% sequestration that you didn't vote on. Remember that one? All right, so that one you can't do anything with. We'll put that to the side, but that's your 2%. And then also, there was a reduction in PQRS. There's about a 2% there. EHR, if we got a lot of doctors who do not buy EHR, so they get that hit automatically. They were not participating with that one. That's got about a 3% hit all by itself. And then there was a 2 to 4% penalty under the value-based modifier, depending on how large the group was, okay? The letters were mailed. Doctors who thought they made it and did not make it. Usually, I hate to put up things that have already passed because you're like, oh, didn't nobody tell me. But I did kind of put up the bullet that said, physicians' offices who find that they were subject to a lot of the penalties were able to ask for an informal review with CMS. And so I get those calls now where doctors are like, well, how do I request an informal review? And I'm like, ooh, doc, you missed the deadline on that. And so I kind of put it up here so that I would remind everybody that if it's something that you thought you should have gotten and you did not, there was a period of appealing like between September and December of last year. Otherwise, January the 1st of 2018, your Medicare monies will be subject to these penalties, all right? You may see that. Some of you remember with PQRS, things of that sort, it was a pass or fail. You get no love in between. You either did a good job with it or you did not. Anybody subject to adjustments? You don't have to tell me blink once for yes and two for no. You don't want anybody else to know. Okay, there we go. Okay, let me see the look again. Blink once for yes and two for no. All right. Okay, got it. That works out well. I know a lot of you want to raise your hand on it, but I see now the eye blinking. We get it clear from the very beginning. When you got friends next to you, you don't want them to know. And this is here where I was talking about there was a downward adjustment for not reporting successfully. Some of the things that, now, CMS did not want, everybody know we're in a new program, MIPS right now, right? APN. CMS did not want all of the small physicians, your solo doc, remember they're like, you are pushing us out of business because we can't stand alone against a very large group, a lot of larger giants that are in healthcare, so you're pushing us out. And they're like, no, but we want to save the solo doc. So they wanted to kind of ease the pain from implementing the brand new program, and they said, okay, we'll make a few adjustments and we'll lower the percentages and we'll change a few of the rules for PQRS and those programs that are going out. The last year was performance year 2016 because MIPS and APM started in 2017. But it affects the money this year. So they said in order to help some people ease into it a little bit more, we'll reduce a few of the adjustments. We'll do a few recalculations based on that, and we'll see if some of the doctors did a little bit better job. And so here is where I put up where that PQRS is reduced from that 2% we just talked about down to 1%. And for groups that were a little bit larger, instead of the 4%, it went down to 2%. So on the previous slide, I told you what it was. Here I tell you what it is based on CMS giving out just a little bit of love, all right? You're able to see how you actually do. Maybe you're coming to the meeting, you're not the person who is actually responsible for all of this, but there is a way for you to know how your office actually does. Pam, who at your office is responsible for looking at the reports and everything like that?
Like the three of us.
Okay, so the three of you are here. You kind of get an opportunity to kind of look at, anybody else on this side, you're responsible for looking at, okay, there we go. Teresa's responsible for kind of looking at the reports. Those of you who are out there in TV land, I'm talking to you if it's part of you, looking at the actual reports and seeing how you do, because it's like anything else. How many of you have children who still go to school? What's the one thing you want to see is the report card. Remember how there used to be a time where it would come in the mail? I'm only 29, but it would come in the mail and things of that sort. Now you can get a lot of it online faster. It beats your children up before you can get on. You can beat it home. Remember, some of you don't have to tell me blink once, but yes, two for no. You would beat it home and you try to hide out some of that stuff, before your parents knew that it was time to get those reports and things of that sort. Now you're more technology driven, and so you see it as soon as they push send, you can get that information very quickly. But there is an opportunity always for you to know how you did in terms of all of these programs. You know how you do. Your QRUR reports, quality resource use reports, there are a lot of abbreviations with Medicare. You can actually see. How many of you have created your profile on eHarmony? Online dating? Not ladies. Blink once for yes and two for no. Okay, there you go. We see a new one. Farmer boys, things of that sort. You think someone? There you go. Christian singles. There's a lot of them out there. All right, there we go. So the reason, profile. You put your best foot forward. You put your picture in there for 20 years. That makes a difference. Things of that sort. But the QRUR report, that same concept is for you to be able to log on, see what the program says about you. It says whether you're meeting your goals. If you're a cardiologist or whatever, your doctor may be the best in his field, but is he costing the program more than what a lot of his peers do? No matter how he explains it, you've seen doctors sometimes when we watch the news who have a lot more Medi-Cal patients or a lot more drugs, and they say, well, I'm healing the sick and everything like that. They're like, but what it appears you're using compared to what everybody else does who does that same thing looks like you're out of line. So QRUR would kind of give you a look at what does the program say about you? How do you look to the program in terms, and if other doctors, if you want to join a group, okay, they would have the opportunity to look and see what does the program say about you. In a minute, we'll talk about the virtual group is brand new, where some of your small doctors can join with one another and possibly make it through MIPS. And this would be something that they would need to bring to the table. Just like you bring your profile, perhaps you're not doing online dating, but every now and then you're looking for a new job and you put together your resume, don't you? Not looking for a new job either? Blink once for yes and two for no, all right? I remember that. I want to tell everybody I'm looking for a new job. Go ahead. Just want you to know, however, when I worked for Meridian, though, if you wanted to look for a new job, when you posted your applications, you had to let the manager that you currently work for know you were looking for a new job. That's unheard of. Remember when you could look within the company and soon you would be like, sorry, Barbara, I'm going to be moving over, and since you were already internal or whatever, they knew you were giving Barbara a 2-week advance notice, but it's like, okay, I'm going on to a new job. And you were required to let the current boss that you had know you were looking to interview for another job. He or she had to sign off on allowing you to move. And that's new. That was only like a couple of years ago. So that's unheard of. You know, but your report says this is who I am. This is what I do. There is help available. Remember I said not if you need help, but when. We're going to agree on it. Does everybody agree on that? Every now and then you need help from a friend, and I'm going to need you almost to raise your hand and say, I will ask for help as soon as I need it. There you go. Promise. All right. Promise yourself that you will ask for help when you need it, because with Medicare, there is no such thing as I didn't know. Does everybody understand that? There is no such thing as, oh, I didn't know that was happening. They're like, it's on page 22, third line from the bottom, second sentence again. It's considered public knowledge. You know, everything that we look for on Google, all of our other search, good, bad, and ugly, it is somewhere. If you don't see it, ask. You've got to ask Jean. If we got to find out from me, if I've got to find out from a friend who knows a friend, we ask. I know you already will contact me and ask some questions, but those of you, the rest of you, if you need some information, I've got some phone numbers, I've got some people here. Even if you go to them and you don't understand what they say, you like, I need to talk to somebody else. Usually when you contact the help desk at any of these, they will give you a reference number, and if you talk to me, I'll be like, okay, so you said you helped yourself, where's the reference number you use? And usually that sets the chain in motion that says, I tried to help myself, here's who I talk to, because they're supposed to keep good notes in customer service in terms of what they say. And so if they're unable to help, then we want to report it as that, all right? Premium, I kind of put that up here in terms of for your patients, and if you need it for, we talked about some of our parents, you know, baby boomers, some of you are in that age group, some of you coming up on it, whatever the case may be. I did it here for Medicare Part B and Part A as well, so you kind of get a snapshot of what happens in the hospital billing as well. Those of you who have worked 40 quarters, 10 years, have covered employment in the Social Security system right now as of February 20th, 2018, your Medicare Part A would be absolutely free. You wouldn't have to pay for your Medicare Part A. I kind of put a base premium up there because they base it on Social Security. So if you got 40 years covered employment, Social Security would determine if you're eligible to get your Medicare Part A free. For those who have less than, let's say, 39 to 30 quarters, they would have another base premium. Below 30 quarters, that group would have the highest premium in terms of hospitalization with Medicare. But 40 quarters right now, for us, Medicare Part A would be absolutely free, all right? Part B, we've got the premium, we've got the deductible co-insurance on the other side, all right? The new Medicare card is coming, hashtag new Medicare numbers. Remember, we've been dealing with this for many, many years, haven't we? Asking in terms of fraud and abuse, take that Social Security number off of the patient's cards. They're almost there after many years. This is not brand new, so I tell everybody, don't let this upset you. Remember when they were going to the MPI number, they went to a UPIN, they went to all of those other numbers. It took about 11 years for them to get the MPI number in place, all right? So we're finally here. Matter of the fact, it's February. In 2 months, April, they will start in waves. They've got a mailing strategy, but California is on the top of that mailing strategy. So beginning in April, we should start to see our beneficiaries get their new cards without their Social Security numbers on it. They got to issue about 150 million of them, probably. They've got to issue for some of the patients who are alive, as well as some of those who are deceased. You know, so they've got to do that entire system. Everything that you know and do that says HIC number in your current practice is going to have to change to MBI, Medicare Beneficiary Identifier. So do you see we're going to be shuffling a lot of paper, a lot of things online, a lot of instructions need to change to accommodate that. I see that look in your eye, and we'll show you a new number in just a minute. It's coming. My friend over here. All right. So the MBI, there'll be a lookup tool. So you'll be getting in your patient's business beginning in April. What kind of mail are you getting? What's it look like? Bring me your new card. Don't stress over it though. Don't stress yet. You'll be able to, in June, Noridian will have a tool where you'll be able to look. CMS knows it's going to get ugly. They want the patients to have access to care. So they're going to try to make this as easy as possible. They don't want you to say, well, I can't find a Medicare number, and so we won't be treating patients that we know we're not going to get paid for. Don't worry about that. That's not even a concern for you, because there will be a tool out there. Noridian's portal will be available. The HIC number will be returned on your remittance advice beginning in October. So everything you send, if you do eligibility transactions online, you'll be able to see that. All of those, you can use that old number and new number at the same time. Technically, this program is not supposed to go to the MBI number only until January the 1st, 2020. Some of you will retire before you even get there. Anybody, does that take anybody? Okay, there you go. Yeah. You hope. Okay, so by the time he gets to 2020, he won't care. He'll be on the golf course. You any good? No. You bowl? What do you do? Surf. Surf. Okay, he'll be on the water. All right, so he'll be somewhere other than in the office worrying about that number. All right, so by the time you get there, the number should be, like I said, eligibility responses, everything's gonna come. They've even got an ombudsman. Once again, we already talked about when, not if, but when you need help, there's somebody there. Dr. Eugene, he's gonna be there. Is your system ready for it? That's the question you probably wanna ask. How many of you know if you're over here at Coastal? Anna, is your system ready? Okay, ready? Everybody else? That's the thing that you just want to know. Is your system ready? Are your training materials going to be up to date? Because they've got a lot of things out there. You don't have to know everything, just need to know where to find it. Don't forget, I've got a link for you to everything you need to know on the bottom of this page. And then this is the one that I know you were asking for on this side of the room. I saw what that looked. What is that new card going to look like? There's that. Give you an example of what the number is. It's randomly selected. Non-intelligent characters, so it will be randomly selected for the patients. On the previous screen when I gave you the link, it will tell you not what those numbers mean specifically, but it will give you an idea whether it will be alpha or numeric in a certain position, all right? So on this particular page at that link at the bottom, it will tell you how to read those numbers, what should and should not be there. It won't tell you what the number is, what it means, like we did with Social Security. We knew it was your number, whatever, that particular case. But here, you'll be able to tell, here's the look of the card, okay? We'll be all right. They made it a lot easier than we thought when they first started saying they were changing over. There should be a lot of leeway for us. Like I said, in April, so get ready. They have a lot of things out there in terms of posters. If you want to start to send out something to the patients, telling them, bring it in. You already know. You know which patients are going to be harder to deal with than others, don't you? Okay. Balance billing, your dual eligibles. These are those who have, your Medicare and your Medi-Cal payments and things of that sort. Okay. Resident. Does anybody watch the series called Resident? No. I started watching. Did you see it? Did you see it last night? Pilot. Okay. And the reason I asked is because they had some patients last night, one of the episodes, and I'm not a person who watches it, but I just happened to pass by it, and it became interesting because they were arguing over having patients who couldn't pay their way in the hospital and how they could get rid of them. And so there was one part of the episode where the administrator for one hospital called the administrators from two other hospitals, and they were Skyped in, and she was asking them if they would be willing to take this patient off her hands. This is what the patient's condition is. This is how much post-op care we believe. And would you take her off of the hand if we offered you some money and we traded you some Medi-Cal patients? Yeah, this was on TV. I've seen some doctors who say we really don't like the program.
Well, I saw the commercial, the preview,
Okay.
and I was like,
Oh.
they didn't even check.
Okay. Well, so you saw the preview. So you
I
saw
saw
that
like
happening,
just the
didn't you?
preview, and I was like, no.
That's gonna be a little ugly. I've never seen that where they were bargaining. If they take a patient off their hand, they said this is how much care. If everything goes well, this is how much we believe her care will be. If it doesn't go well, this is how much we believe her post-op care will be. Would you trade us $250,000 for your new cardiology wing and 5 Medi-Cal patients? And so one of the doctors who was there, she's got her mouth open like, really? Yes, and the doctor said, no, we'll take 10 of them. And the head doctor was telling the spokesperson, no, he was writing notes on it and telling her, this is what we'll take. We'll give her $250,000, but only 7 Medi-Cal patients, not 10.
They turned it into a game show.
Yeah, they did turn it into, it was an auction, and what's your best deal? Yeah, I'd never seen that, so that was interesting. That will be ugly when it comes up time to review, because they said a lot of doctors. But yeah, it was on. And so the bottom line is both hospitals that she was trying to bargain with, they were like, nah, we're not taking that deal. They just kind of dropped out. But they were listening. They just didn't give them enough. They wanted 10 Medi-Cal patients and $250,000 to take that one patient off their hands. Kind of gives you an idea. But, balance billing.
Maybe they're working up to they'll be in jail in a couple years.
I don't know. As the way it seems though, I'm sure that these are things that happen all the time. They just have never shown them to us, huh, Teresa? We know there's some things
Somebody
behind
will be
the
telling.
I've been in the room before, and I'll tell you this one in just a minute as soon as I get a little bit further in. No cost sharing for the qualified Medicare beneficiaries. So if we have some of them who are eligible, even with the weather changing, we've got some of the snowbirds who may be someplace else. If they have eligibility in the state where they are, they qualify. When they come to California, they still qualify in terms of not charging them extra and things like that. So they cannot waive their status. You've got an indicator out there that can tell you in terms of their eligibility now, so that even if they seek out care and they don't tell you they have Medi-Cal, you can go out in terms of your eligibility and see it for yourself, right? Also, they had this on the remittance advice. They had some issues in terms of how they had set it up on the remittance advice coming back, and they found out that the brand new way that they were doing it on the remittance was, wrecking a little bit habit. So they pulled it off. They went back to the old way it was, and they're letting us know that they're going to reissue that. Soon they're going to be going back to the old way they were doing things in terms of the remittance advice. I know it's going to be ugly. All right, let's see. The advanced beneficiary notice. So if it's something that may or may not be covered for the patient's condition, only thing I want you to remember when you see this is every patient doesn't sign this as a blanket statement. I had a doctor's office in the audience once, and I said, can you get every patient to sign an ABN? And she said, yes, we do. I said, oh, no, you don't. Okay? Everybody who comes to your office does not sign an advance notice of coverage. You can discuss with them how they may be, we talked about it, liable, but every patient won't be signing off, because technically everybody you see shouldn't have the issue that it is or is not covered by their health care, or something is wrong. Okay? So I just want to I put this up here to remind you that if you are issuing your advanced beneficiary notice of non-coverage, something that may or may not be covered for the reported condition, remember to have the most current edition. It should have the date 2020 on it, not the one with 2011. So go back to your office, make sure if you're pulling that form, you're pulling the most current one from the computer. You're not pulling one out of a folder in the office that's dated from 2011 instead of 2020, because even if you issue it and it's on the wrong form, it becomes invalid. So that is a reminder. Yes?
When did that one come out, the March 2020? When does that affect, what was the effective date for that one?
Probably, let's see, November, probably about October of last year. Yes, it's been out a while. You didn't see anything on it? Yes. I'm glad you came today, see?
Yeah,
okay.
thank
Remember, I always say, if you get at least one thing, that you have done yourself well by coming. But yes, make sure your forms are the current version that you're pulling down. And definitely, I've got a booklet here. What if the patient doesn't want to sign the ABN? What can you do? What if the patient doesn't want to sign?
You could not give them the service.
She said, I'm not giving them the service. Well, we can't abandon all of them at the same time because they won't do what we say do. What do we do? Teresa, what do we do? Yes, so you can say they refuse to sign and get somebody else to witness. Like you said, you're going to determine if the service, if they're going to get that service or not. You know, you can decide that. You know what your business plan is. But I'm saying that is one of the questions. And the reason I ask that is because there is an entire booklet of instructions. I know we don't like to read. Have you ever walked into a door and pushed when it say full? One word. So I know we don't, but I always make sure that if I have a resource that is available for you, I put it there so you know that if anybody, remember we said there's no such thing as I didn't know. There's a resource of about 30 pages that goes over everything that should and should not happen with that ABN. So you want to make sure that you're always in line. So I've got your booklet there just in case you've got some questions. Let's kind of look at MIPS year one. We talked about it a couple minutes ago that PQRS, all of those that make us nauseated, the value-based modifier, EHR, all of those programs sunsetted with the 2016 performance year. However, the success or failure of participating in those programs is affecting your Medicare money this year, right? So the replacement program becomes MIPS for 2017. Now it's based on there are actually 4 weighted categories. There's actually a composite score of 0 to 100. Remember we went to school, everything was based on a score, wasn't it? Every test. Well, how many did you get? 98 out of 100. How many did you get? 69 out of 100. You know, things of that sort. Everything is based on it. You're only a number. Same thing goes back here with the new pricing is in terms of what's the physician's score based on his reporting. Quality, 60%. Cost in last year was not a factor. The improvement activities was 15% of the score, and then using advancing care information was 25% of the score. All right? Something that CMS also made easier last year was that you could pick your pace depending on how simple or how complicated you thought the program. You could pick how you wanted to participate. That has disappeared for 2018. But last year we had some older doctors who were hanging around a little bit longer. They're 70, 80, even 90, some of them, still hanging out. Oh, she said, ooh, your doctor's not that old, is it?
No, but he works with some that are.
Some that are, that's right.
Like 88.
88, yes we do. I don't ask what specialty they are, but definitely. I've been to Eureka. Now, of course, that is a little bit more in your rule and whatever, but yeah, I encountered an office that had a doctor. He was still about 92, and he was still practicing. Okay? So, some are still out there, but here, there was an opportunity for a lot of docs, if they weren't in tune to what to do with the reporting, they could just report one measure, one patient, one time. There was a partial reporting for those doctors and offices who thought they knew a little bit more about MIPS and the quality reporting. They could do a partial, or we had some, if they were part of a larger group that was more in tune to it, they were able to do a full year's reporting, all right? Or if you didn't do any of those 3, you belong to an APM, an accountable care organization, some type of model, you could do your reporting through the advanced APM. Now here's the question. Everybody did something in terms of MIPS. Everybody did something. What are you doing? You did full, partial?
We did partial.
You did partial. Okay. Somebody at this table, what did you guys do? Full. Okay, so you were ready to go. We did full. This table over here, somebody's got to represent. What did you do? Full, all right. And then we're over here. Teresa, what you guys do? Partial. Okay, so everybody did a little bit of something in terms of MIPS reporting, so we're there. The only physicians who, remember I said, CMS says we gotta get everybody at least looking in this direction, and so the only ones who should receive a 4% adjustment in their Medicare money in 2019 based on 2017 is a physician who actually stayed under the rock and said, I'm doing absolutely nothing. I don't want to, I don't care, I'm doing nothing. But if they just came out for just a little while, one patient, one measure, one time, they could avoid the 4% penalty. It was just that easy. Even though we talked about it, some of you a little bit more in tune, a little bit more, so you said we did a partial or we did a full reporting because we knew what to do. But for those who knew absolutely nothing, they were given a pass this first year. Data submission deadline. Everybody, don't forget March 31st, 2018 is your submission deadline unless you're a web interface user, which would be March the 16th, all right? The portal is open. How many of you have started? You started, all right? Over here, who's doing my reporting? Have you guys reported anything?
We have.
Okay, so you're gonna check back. Teresa, what you guys doing? You haven't started reporting yet?
Waiting for March 30th. No, I'm kidding.
No, you're not.
Not yet. Not yet. I'm not waiting for that.
Oh, okay, she's not here. Okay. But look, the portal has been open since January. So go in. Something that's new that you want to realize is, even if you're not finished, does everybody realize the portal is open and you can go in and start plugging in your information and you can go back and update all the way until March. So don't wait till the last minute to enter your information and something goes wrong and you go home sick with the flu or something happens, okay? So go out there, log on. That's something that's brand new. You can put it in. It even, I'm coming. It even shows you your score right now. Yes.
I thought it was March 1st.
No, the 31st. You can submit all the way to the 31st. March 1st is if you're only doing claims. You're beyond claims, right?
Well, I'm doing it for a registry, and the registry deadline is March 1st.
Well, that's the registry's deadline. It probably so that you won't wait till the last minute. That's for them. But technically, the program gives them a little bit longer. But yeah, that's what I was telling Teresa. Don't wait until, and like I said, the March 1st was for claims. Those docs who definitely are still able to submit via claim. March. Interface user, 16th, everybody else, the 31st. They probably, like we said, the registry gave you a date because they don't want you to wait till the last minute. That gives them 30 days to finish it up. There we go. Okay? The submission fact sheets, I've got that here. And data validation criteria, I've got that at the bottom. How will it change my Medicare reimbursement? Remember we said 4% is this year for those who absolutely did nothing. Everybody else should get some points on that 100 composite score no matter what if they did something. 2018 performance year affects 2020's money, so don't forget what was 4%, what will be 4% for 2019 will go up to 5% now. So what we're doing in 2018 goes up to a 5% penalty depending on our results. Audit preparedness. One thing I want to remind you that everything that you do is subject to the nice small five-letter word beginning with an A, an audit. So make sure you keep all of your supporting documentation. And I put it, remember if it's not written down, it didn't happen. How many years does it say to keep this? How many years do I say? 10. Even though you know everything to be 6 and 7, yes you do. And 10 years is usually, if you're caught with under the False Claims Act, you've got some things, maybe some FBI activity and stuff like that.
Look at me for that.
No, because you're so serious. That's why I thought you were retiring. He's so serious. Do you see it? That look. What's your name? Jim. I was gonna say that. I thought I almost remembered. Jim, that's your power. That's your power look. See how you lean back and you go. Okay, that's your power. That's right. Everybody's got their own character. I'm telling you, it's a positive thing. It's not a negative. So that's why when I went to the serious point about the FBI, I came to you. You look like you could be CIA. What you say, Let? Uncover. No. All right. So just wanted to remind Jim and everybody else that even though we said 6 and we said 7 years and things like that, the audit preparedness is saying 10 in terms of this. And I have seen some docs who haven't had, when they've done EHR auditing before and they didn't have anything in their file regarding how they did with their EHR. I had one doc who was assessed $55,000, all right? So I deal with, remember, with real doctors who go through this. So make sure you got your information, okay? Let's look at where we are currently. They keep changing the guidelines. They believe that updating the threshold and things of that sort is taking a few of the doctors out, all right? So a few of them are coming out. They believe 97% of the doctors will earn a neutral or positive payment. So they said they believe they made it so easy that a lot of doctors shouldn't have a problem with at least that first year. Year 2, remember the final score was still 0 to 100, but cost has been put back in year 2 in terms of 10% for cost. The quality went down to 50%. Improvement activity still 15, advancing care, use of the computer in the day-to-day operation is still 25. No change in the type of providers who are eligible. That's still there. The low volume threshold, so we've got doctors who say my practice is smaller than small and this shouldn't affect me. So this year they voted to change the threshold. Last time it was $30,000 and 100 Medicare patients in terms of eligibility. In terms of those who were exempt, it was $30,000 or 100 patients. So if they had less than that in terms of Medicare, they were exempt from the MIPS program, all right? This year, it went up to $90,000. So if we've got doctors who have at least more than $90,000 or they have more than 200 Medicare patients, then they're in. Less than that, they're out. They do not have to meet all of these requirements under the program, all right? No change in the basic exemption criteria. New doctors who are in their first year, your hospital docs who do, or those who do non-patient facing, like those who do pathology, radiation, you know, those of that sort who really don't see the patients, they only see the specimens or their films or things like that. They're not subject to a lot of these rules in terms of quality and cost. And then as I said a minute ago, the low volume threshold. Charges less than or equal to 90,000 or they see less than equal to 200 patients, automatically they're exempt from the program. Probably in a few months, because we are still, Richard, we are still in the process of trying to get in the 2017 information. Remember we said at least until March deadline. A lot of the websites still reflects 2017 guidelines instead of 2018. And so I did put this up here for a little bit later, but for those docs who believe that they should not be subject to MIPS, they will be able to go out to the website. All they have to do is put their MPI number in, and if it says you don't have to do any reporting, you don't. If it says you do need to do reporting, then the doctor does, right? So there is an eligibility too. What do I need to know right quick? One thing I want to remind you of is quality only had a 90-day reporting last year. Remember, you've got to do an entire year now. So technically, we should already be moving, shouldn't we? Quality is 12 months and cost is brand new. Remember we said at 10% for an entire year's reporting. You don't have to send in anything for cost. CMS calculates your cost based on your claims data. So they look at what you do, I see your hand, compare it against your peers who do the exact same thing and give you an idea of what your cost is, which patients are driving up your cost, etc. Yes?
For sure, if a doctor is exempt,
Okay.
that means that they're not going to get a deduction, nor are they going to get an increase as the years evolve, they're just gonna stay status quo. And do you know the reason why they changed from 30 to 90 and less than 100 to 200?
Well, because there are a lot of doctors who don't want to be part of the program. They changed that, so it's supposed to be in their favor that they raise the threshold, because there are a lot of doctors who say, I'm a small time outfit, I don't have time to do this, I'm not going to buy EHR, and so you have a program that I will never be successful at. And so they said, okay, then let's look at your money. If you say your money is very low in terms of Medicare patients, then okay, we'll agree with you and we'll give you a pass. Okay. Now, also, I'm glad you asked that question. I told doctors, don't do the double dutch. If you're not eligible, don't decide to jump in. Everybody know double dutch? You wait. There you go. Don't do it. I see it. Okay. I see it. Don't do the double dutch thing. I got about 5 minutes. You know, don't do it. Stay. If you don't want to play, stay out. Because the minute you start reporting, you subject yourself to scoring. All right? You out, stay out. Don't say, oh, well, let me see. No. Stay out. Timeline, I put that back in. Once again, there is where we were talking about that March 31st, performance, feedback, payment adjustments. We talked about that. Also, do I report as an individual, group? Also, something brand new that they added was the virtual group. We've got, you already know if you want to be an individual. You already know if you've got a group. You already know how many people in your group? 7. You already know who the weakest link is, don't you? How big is your group back here? Louisa, how big is your group? Just one, okay. Ooh, all right. One solo doc?
What's that?
One solo doctor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just physical therapy.
Physical therapy. Okay, so not really in this year yet. All right. Over here, Vivian, how big is your practice? How many people we got in there? How many doctors we have? Just one. All right. Okay, so we only got one. That's depending. Okay. What specialty?
OBGYN.
OBGYN. Okay, so we could go either ways with Medicare people. Okay, gotcha. Okay. But the virtual group is for those docs who may be only one who says there is power in numbers, so they could join up with a few friends, no matter the location, no matter what specialty, and they can do the reporting. And remember I told you earlier about the QRU report. If you're gonna interview somebody and doctors wanna see who, gotta bring on people who think they possibly know what to do. They're not in the business of dragging people in or joining up with team. How many of you want to win? You competitive? All right. You're not competitive? Outperformers? Okay. You want to win though, don't you? Okay. I got a couple minutes to kind of finish this out. Data submission methods. Those of you who have already been, is there anybody who hasn't been in yet? We haven't jumped in for 2017. Everybody is pretty much, you haven't been in yet? Okay, there you go. She says her doctor's retiring when? 10 years from now?
I don't know, soon.
Yes, he's not going home. I like that. He's going to retire soon. He's 60, we say?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he still got a lot of time.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Yeah.
Oh, I do.
Things are changing so quick, it's hard to.
Oh, yeah. But when you go home, most of them don't have a plan on what to do when they get home. So they stay in longer than they wanted to.
Okay, well, I'm retired now.
You'll retire and leave him there. But yeah, a lot of the doctors, the reason we brought that up is because a lot of the doctors did ask for that stipulation under exemptions in terms of age. So that was one of the things that they asked for. I'm over 66, I'm over retirement age. Could we take that? And they're like, nah. Because some get real old. When we just talked about it. At 92, they're still working. Others at 50 who are retired, or 60, whatever they do, they stop working, so the gap is too big for them to use that as a consideration, all right? So there was the submission methods. I did a couple reminders in terms of the components, how many get in there. So not gonna stay there long, I just kind of put it in there regarding what to do, cost, 10%, you don't have to do anything, it's based on your claims data. The improvement activities, same 90 days. Advancing care, 90-day reporting period. The only thing that's a little bit different is I stop here in terms of the threshold, because for 2017, remember we said we had doctors who could do one patient, one claim, one time. They automatically got 3 points for doing that, and 3 points was the lowest threshold that says if you got those 3 points, automatically you were not subject to the 4% that will happen in 2019. Well, they've raised that. They said, we gave you the first year to get to know the program. We're going into the second year. So what was the lowest at 3 points needs to be the lowest at 15 points. So they've raised it now. They're like, you'll need to pay a little bit more attention. And it's a 15-point minimum threshold as opposed to 3 points for the first year. Right. I got that here. Got in a few flexibilities for the small practices, the small doctor. A lot of the doctors talked about cherry picking. Remember, Medi-Cal patients who are very sick, you know, they're thinking Medi-Cal patients who are very sick drive up the cost. And so if you tell me that those patients who are really sick are going to work against my score, then that means they're going to start to get rid of them. Put them out of the practice or pick and choose who they get. And this is not Cheryl's rule. These are rules that have been part of the comments that you would read if you went to that 1,250 pages. They would have comments from a lot of doctors regarding, you know, cherry picking the patients, and how do you not do that if you're going to tell me that the quality of care is going to count against me. So they say in order to kind of give a little bit of leeway in that, let's give out some bonus points. Here's what they say: if you've got patients who are they are challenges to your practice, they are really heavy burdens, they're your dual eligibles, they're really sick, we'll give you some extra bonus points so that you feel like you're being penalized for seeing some of the sicker patients than others. Okay? Extreme and uncontrollable circumstances, I did that a hardship. Remember, we've had a lot of mudslides, we've had fires and a lot of those things like that. CMS and I was talking to Suzanne, her mom was in Houston, remember? Hurricanes and things of that sort, that they've given some consideration to a lot of practices that have been out there, and they've had issues with mudslides, losing their entire practice and things of that sort, that they actually do get some love in that. So if you're in that particular area, they've done it by zip code, then what they're doing is they're saying, don't worry about the reporting, we'll make you exempt. Okay, so that was also part of it. Then I think here, I just did some other kind of rules. Remember I told you about complex patient bonus, dual eligibles, subscribe to the listserv, use the library and the self-paced training videos, okay? Did I have any last minute questions? So that was kind of it. That gets you all the way through to what's brand new for the year. It gets you all the way to the resources regarding what happens for year 2, all right? Anybody got any last minute questions? Yes.
Just a quick question. So
Okay.
is Health Services Advisory Group for the state of California still a resource at no charge?
Absolutely.
Practices? Okay.
Yes. Thank you for that. So we talked about that, asking questions, that Health Services Advisory Group, we call it HSAG. Nobody likes the sound of that, but HSAG, we call them, and they are absolutely positively free. Ask your questions. They'll hold your hand. If you know what you're doing, still call them and let them hold your hand. They've already been paid $20 million by CMS to help you. So take them up on the help, absolutely free. You've used them? Have you used them yet?
Well, disclosure here, I'm a vendor, and when
Okay.
I work with existing accounts, I'm looking for new business, I hand out that sheet.
Okay.
To let practices know this is a resource for you.
Okay.
We're not affiliated with us, but this is CMS.
Okay. Anybody else on this side then that used it? Anybody? No? Yeah, I got it. I'll get it for you in just a sec. Okay. I'll get the phone number for you in just a sec. Do you know if I had Hart? 844-472? Okay, I don't know the last
See if I
phone
have
number.
the handout.
I'll look it up. You got the handout?
I'll look.
Okay, we'll make sure we got the phone number. Some days I remember by heart, other days not.
I take it we're gonna get your slides.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will be sending those to everybody out to the
Okay,
presentation.
okay. Okay. She had the slides. Evidently, she didn't want you to not come because you got up early. I already know what the trick is. I already know.
Any
I've
other,
seen it.
Any other
Okay.
questions for Cheryl? Nothing? Well, thank you so much,
Okay.
Cheryl. What a great job. We appreciate you so much.